Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something absolutely fascinating. We're going to uncover a sort of hidden engine. It's this underlying structural force that perfectly explains why some human societies shoot up to these just extraordinary heights of technology and wealth, while others, well, they just seem to get completely stuck in endless, repeating, historical loops. Now, you've probably wondered about this at some point, right? Why do some societies break out while others just loop? Usually when you ask that, you get the standard answers. People point to geography, or whether a place has natural resources. Sometimes they blame religion or specific political systems. But when we really look closely, a much deeper analysis reveals something incredible. There is a fundamental cognitive driver sitting right beneath all of that.
And here's what it is: certainty. That's the true catalyst. Certainty is literally the ultimate force that pushes human civilization to build higher and higher. It is the absolute cornerstone of progress. And the craziest part? This concept spans everything. We're talking from the abstract world of mathematics, straight through the physical world of engineering, all the way up to the social world of law and order.
So here's how we're going to break this down today. We'll start with the historical loop and the mathematical breakout, move into scaling industrial certainty, and then wrap up with the oxygen of prosperity and the tragedy of uncertainty.
All right, let's kick things off with part one, the historical loop and the mathematical breakout. To really grasp how we broke out of the past, we have to look at the foundation. For thousands of years, civilizations were doing amazing things, incredible art, philosophy, religion. But materialistically, generation after generation lived in basically the exact same conditions, facing the exact same physical limits. Why? Well, because their knowledge relied on subjective interpretation. It was based on shifting social norms, or seasonal patterns, or just localized knowledge held by individual masters. And when a master died, that knowledge often died right along with them. I mean, humanity literally forgot how to make concrete for 1,000 years after the Roman Empire fell. The real breakout finally happened when humanity embraced a tool of absolute, unshakable certainty: rigorous universal proof. The catalyst wasn't a king or a specific culture, it was math. See, mathematics is this unique cognitive tool that lets the human mind actually grasp absolute certainty. When Isaac Newton co-invented calculus, he wasn't just adding a boring chapter to a high school textbook. He gave humanity the unprecedented power to model physical phenomena without any guesswork. For the first time ever, we could calculate the trajectories of highly complex dynamic objects with absolute unshakable certainty. Calculus became the firm bedrock that literally all modern technology is anchored to. And this perfectly illustrates how cumulative progress actually works. It's kind of like building a giant tower into the sky. For that tower to go higher, the lower levels have to be absolutely solid. Because a mathematical theorem is eternally certain, future generations don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to re-verify Newton's laws every single time. We just confidently bolt thermodynamics right on top of them. Then we bolt mechanical engineering on top of thermodynamics, and aerospace design on top of that. Every single new level is bolted securely to the absolute certainty beneath it.
Which brings us to part two, scaling industrial certainty.
So how does all that abstract math actually translate into the physical world? Think about a modern automobile assembly line. As the society gets more advanced, it needs a flawless chain of execution. Building a car requires thousands of highly complex parts that have to work together perfectly. Every single one of those parts must meet a highly precise required specification, or a spec. And to make those parts, we have to build specialized machines that operate within extremely tight margins of error, which we call tolerances.
It creates a literal chain of certainty. A machine guarantees that a bolt meets the exact spec every single time, so that the nut perfectly fits, so that the assembly line proceeds flawlessly, and boom, a functional car rolls off the line. But if a machine fails to guarantee even a single bolt, the whole shebang grinds to a halt. The car doesn't get made. That is industrial certainty in action. High technology is honestly nothing more than the physical scaling of mathematical certainty.
Now let's zoom out to part three, the oxygen of prosperity.
This universal rule of certainty doesn't just stop at physical sciences or factories. It scales all the way up into human behavior and our institutions. Just look at the sheer diversity of some of the most prosperous societies out there. You've got historic Hong Kong and Singapore, which thrived without Western-style majoritarian democracies. You've got New Zealand, doing incredibly well without heavy, high-tech manufacturing. Or Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, highly homogeneous societies with totally different cultural backgrounds. Geographically, politically, culturally, they are vastly different, but they all share the exact same institutional core: predictable rules, and transparent law and order, highly reliable systems.
When a society has institutional certainty, people finally know the rules of the game. Put yourself in that position. When you have certainty, you have the confidence to study hard, right? Because you know acquiring valuable skills will actually be rewarded. You can invest your capital without constantly worrying it's going to be arbitrarily seized. You can honor contracts fairly, totally free from having to rely on bribery or some underground network. This certainty is literally the oxygen of prosperity. It allows us to make long-term plans, take constructive risks, and defer our immediate gratification for a much bigger future payoff.
But what happens when that's missing? That brings us to part 4, the tragedy of uncertainty.
What happens to that civilizational tower we've been building when that vital layer of societal certainty is just gone? Well, it's devastating. Look at the stark contrast here. Institutional certainty breeds long-term planning and order, but when a society is governed by corruption or bribery or the constantly shifting whims of politicians, it falls into this tragedy of systemic uncertainty. And in that kind of environment, the natural connection between your hard work and your reward, it gets completely severed. Imagine being a business owner in that system. If you're constantly terrified that some corrupt official is going to arbitrarily shut you down tomorrow, there's absolutely no way you're investing in expanding your store today. Or think about being a student. If you realize that getting a good job depends entirely on your family connections instead of your actual merit, what's the rational response? You just stop trying. People become incredibly reluctant to study, to invest, or to build anything. The capital flees to high-certainty nations, and all of that amazing human energy gets completely diverted into short-term survival or just trying to game a broken system.
Which brings us to our conclusion, the ultimate measure of a society.
As we reach the top of our metaphorical tower, it becomes so clear how these abstract, physical, and societal levels are all inextricably linked. Certainty is the unbreakable thread of human progress. Mathematical certainty builds our physical technologies. Industrial certainty scales those technologies for all of society. And institutional certainty builds the social trust and cooperation we need to actually live together. Together, they are the ultimate engine driving human civilization higher and higher.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought as you look at the world around you. The ultimate measure of any civilization's advancement is its ability to manufacture and maintain certainty. When you look at the foundations of your own society, your own institutions, your own workplace, are they manufacturing the certainty required to keep building toward the sky? Or are you building on the shaky ground of shifting whims, trapped in a loop? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep seeking clarity, and I'll see you next time.